Dangerous authenticity, the revolutionary power of showing up fully in a fragmented world. Welcome to this moment of truth, beautiful souls. I'm truly honored to stand before you today to share profound insights that I believe will transform how we show up in our lives and careers. Recently, I had the extraordinary privilege of sitting down with ChiffonaRay Thompson, an American actor, director, and award winning filmmaker whose revolutionary work has been quietly reshaping our understanding of authentic presence in creative spaces and beyond. ChiffonaRay Thompson isn't just an artist. She's a cultural architect whose multidimensional approach to storytelling has created pathways for Black women to express their full humanity without compromise. Her work transcends entertainment. It's a radical act of truth telling that shows us all what it means to be both soft and powerful simultaneously. Through her films, poetry, and activism, she has sparked a movement that challenges the very foundations of how marginalized voices are heard and valued in our society. Today, I want to explore what I learned from our conversation about the revolutionary act of bringing your whole self to your work, your relationships, and your life's purpose. Because what Shafana Ray taught me isn't just about succeeding in the entertainment industry, it's about thriving as a complete human being in a world that often demands we fragment ourselves. Let's begin with a truth that resonated deeply during our conversation. The most powerful force in any room isn't the loudest voice or the most impressive resume, it's authentic presence. Shafana Ray shared something that stopped me in my tracks. She said, when I stopped performing my success and started embodying my truth, doors didn't just open, they disappeared entirely because I no longer saw barriers where society had placed them. Think about that for a moment. How many of us have been performing our success rather than embodying our truth? How many of us have been wearing titanium capes, pushing through exhaustion, wearing masks of perfection, all while our souls are quietly begging for the space to breathe, to be seen, to be soft? The journey Shafana Ray described mirrors what so many high achieving Black women experience. There's this unspoken expectation that our worth is tied to our productivity, our ability to weather storms without complaint, our capacity to be everything to everyone while asking for nothing in return. We've been conditioned to believe that our strength lies in how much we can endure rather than in how authentically we can exist. But what if we've been measuring strength? Virtue checks wrong. During our conversation, Shafana Ray reflected on her early career when she felt compelled to compartmentalize her identity. I thought I needed to leave certain parts of myself at the door to be taken seriously, she explained. My spirituality, my cultural expressions, my natural speaking patterns. I tucked them away, think they were liabilities rather than superpowers. This resonates deeply with the mission of embracing our fullness, this recognition that our wholeness isn't something to be fragmented and filtered for public consumption. Our softness, our vulnerability, our cultural expressions aren't weaknesses to overcome, but rather the very essence of what makes our contributions unique and powerful. Shafana Ray described a pivotal moment in her career when she was directing a project and found herself code switching, dimming her light, making herself smaller to fit into spaces that weren't designed with her in mind. She caught herself mid sentence, paused, and made a decision that would transform her work forever. She decided to speak, direct, and create from her center rather than from the edges of herself. The quality of my work didn't just improve, she told me. It transformed entirely because I was no longer expending energy on maintaining a persona. All that energy could now flow directly into my creativity. This is what I call the authenticity dividend, the exponential return we receive when we invest in showing up as our complete selves. It's not just about personal fulfillment, though that's certainly part of it. It's about the quality of our contributions to the world, it's about the depth of our impact. When we're constantly translating ourselves into languages that feel more palatable to others, we're not just exhausting ourselves, we're diluting our gifts. We're offering the world a watered down version of what we're capable of creating. ChiffonaRay's work in spoken word poetry particularly exemplifies this principle. She described how she initially tried to modulate her voice, her cadence, her subject matter to fit what she thought audiences wanted. But when she began speaking her truth in her authentic voice, embracing the rhythms, the cultural references, the spiritual dimensions that felt true to her experience, her poetry didn't just reach people's minds, it touched their souls. There's a difference, she said, between being heard and being felt. When I speak from my authentic center, people don't just hear my words, they feel my truth resonating with their own. This distinction between being heard and being felt is crucial. In a world saturated with content, with noise, with carefully curated personas, what cuts through isn't perfection, it's resonance. And resonance comes from truth, from vulnerability, from the courage to stand in your fullness without apology. But let's be honest, this isn't easy. The systems and structures we navigate weren't built for our authentic expression. ChiffonaRay spoke candidly about the resistance she encountered when she began showing up more authentically in professional spaces. There were definitely moments, she shared, when I could feel people's discomfort with my unfiltered presence. There were opportunities lost because I refused to shrink. But what I gained in return was so much more valuable. I gained myself. This is the paradoxical truth that emerged from our conversation. Sometimes what looks like a professional risk, being more authentic, more vulnerable, more true to your cultural and spiritual roots, turns out to be the greatest professional asset. Because authenticity isn't just personally fulfilling, it's magnetically powerful. Shafana Ray's experience as a filmmaker illuminates this truth. She described projects where she initially tried to follow conventional formulas, creating work that she thought would be commercially viable or critically acclaimed. These projects were technically sound, but lacked the spark, the distinctive perspective that makes art transcendent. It was only when she began infusing her work with her unique worldview, drawing from her spiritual practices, her cultural heritage, her lived experiences as a Black woman, that her films began receiving recognition and resonating with audiences in profound ways. The very things I once hid, she reflected, became the hallmarks of my artistic voice. The specificity of my perspective became the universality of my impact. This is a profound lesson for all of us, regardless of our field. The aspects of ourselves that we've been taught to downplay or conceal might actually be the sources of our greatest contributions. Our different ways of seeing, of knowing, of being in the world aren't obstacles to overcome, they're gifts to be shared. Shafana Ray shared a powerful affirmation that guides her work. I am not here to fit into spaces. I am here to transform them with the truth of who I am. Imagine if we all approached our lives and work with this mindset. Imagine if instead of contorting ourselves to fit into existing structures, we allowed our authentic presence to reshape those structures. Imagine if instead of asking, how can I succeed within this system? We asked, how can my unique gifts transform this system? This isn't just about individual fulfillment, though that matters deeply. It's about collective transformation. When we show up authentically, we create permission for others to do the same. We expand the possibilities for everyone. During our conversation, ChiffonaRay shared a beautiful quote from Audre Lorde that has guided her journey. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. This perspective reframes courage not as the absence of fear, but as the commitment to purpose that transcends fear. We may still feel afraid when we show up authentically, afraid of rejection, of misunderstanding, of not fitting in. But when we're connected to something larger than ourselves, our purpose, our vision for a more just and beautiful world, that fear loses its power to determine our choices. ChiffonaRay's journey reminds us that authentic presence isn't just about self expression, it's about impact. It's about the unique contribution that only you can make when you're operating from your center rather than from the fragments of yourself that you think will be acceptable. She shared a powerful practice that has helped her maintain her authentic presence even in challenging environments. Before entering any space, whether it's a film set, a poetry reading, or a business meeting, she takes a moment to ground herself in three questions. What truth am I here to embody? What gift am I here to share? What transformation am I here to facilitate? These questions shift the focus from how she'll be perceived to what she's there to contribute. They connect her to her purpose rather than her performance. They remind her that her presence isn't just about her, it's about what becomes possible when she shows up fully. This practice isn't about ignoring context or being insensitive to different environments. It's about bringing your core truth into every context in ways that create connection rather than disconnection. It's about recognizing that true adaptability doesn't mean becoming someone else in different spaces. It means finding different expressions of your authentic self that can create bridges of understanding. As we approach the close of our time together, I want to share one final insight from my conversation with ChiffonaRay that has the power to transform how we think about success and fulfillment. She said, I used to think success was about reaching certain milestones, awards, recognition, financial benchmarks. Now I understand that true success is measured by alignment, the alignment between who I am and how I live, between what I believe and what I create, between my values and my choices. This redefinition of success shifts everything. It moves us from external validation to internal congruence. It frees us from the exhausting pursuit of achievements that may not actually reflect our deepest values and desires. It allows us to recognize that the most meaningful measure of our lives isn't what we accumulate or achieve, but who we become and what we contribute. So I challenge you today, not just to hear these words, but to feel them, to let them resonate in the spaces where you've been holding back, where you've been performing rather than being, where you've been fragmenting yourself to fit into boxes that were never designed to contain your magnificence. I challenge you to ask yourself, what would become possible if you committed to your dangerous authenticity? What systems might you transform? What healing might you facilitate? What liberation might you create? Not just for yourself, but for all those who will be emboldened by your courage to show up fully. The world doesn't need more perfect performances. It needs more authentic presence. It needs your authentic presence, your unique voice, your distinctive perspective, your particular gifts. Because when you dare to bring your whole self forward, you don't just change your life, you change the landscape of possibility for everyone around you. Let this be the moment you decide to drop the titanium cape, to step into the revolutionary power of your fullness, to declare that your authenticity is not something to be managed or contained. It's your greatest contribution to a world desperate for truth. Rise up in your dangerous authenticity. The world is waiting.